So for this session, we've got Andrew Farthing joining us and talking to us about the Koha North West Usergroup. So Andrew, perhaps to start with, you could just introduce yourself and then let us know what the North West Koha Usergroup actually is.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Farthing. I'm the Principal Librarian from Sefton Library Service on Merseyside. And I'm part of the Koha North West Usergroup. You kind of have to be a bit not to realise what that was. It's a user group of all the Koha customers for PTFS in the Northwest. Our main reason for being is to give some feedback to PTFS on how things are going with Koha, how things are going with PTFS, but also primarily to look at the developments that we want to see happen in Koha to make it a better system for us. But it's a two-way street. It also gives PTFS the opportunity to tell us about what's happening with Koha, what's happening with the company, and what's happening in any new developments or the latest upgrades. So we're given advance warning of what's going to be happening with our next version. Currently, the group is made up of academic libraries, special libraries, and public libraries. And at the moment, we're looking at how we evolve as a group.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. How did the user group come about in the first place then?
Well, the public library services in the Northwest have always had a history of working together and taking a collaborative approach to the public library service. And particularly in Merseyside, all the local authorities work together quite closely, and we're all part of various user groups. There's a Time to Read user group. I have to attend the Libraries Connected user group. So we meet each other quite regularly. When Holden Libraries became the first public library to adopt Koha, they asked the local academic libraries had Koha to give them some support, which they did. Then when we adopted Koha, we asked Holton for some help, which they gave us. And then two of our neighbours, St Helens and Moseley, they soon adopted after us and asked us for help. So we've got that history of helping each other already. And on the back of that, once there was a critical mass of academic libraries and public libraries, Geraldine from Holton emailed everyone out to say, wouldn't it be a good idea just to create a U group where we could steer Koha and develop Koha in a way that was beneficial for us? And why would we not do that? So because she came up with the idea, we all voted that she'd be chair.
Perfect. Yes. Excellent. And I mean, it's great that you have that collaborative approach in the Northwest anyway, but it's also one of the great things about a Koha, about an open source community, is that you're more likely to get collaboration between different users of the same system, I think. So just maybe explain to us a bit about how the user group works then, Andrew.
Well, it's hardly like going to work, I have to say. We meet a couple of times a year. Each meeting starts with a presentation for PTFS on what's happening in the wider community, what new developments are coming up, what new customers are on board. Basically, the talk that they give us when you attend the annual conference. So it's the same sort of thing. We then talk about any issues we've had with, and that's an opportunity for anyone to vent their spleen. It does happen very often, to say. And we discuss ideas of how we could solve them collaboratively. We then discuss any development that each customer has done or implemented Now that's a really important part of the user group, because we really bounce ideas off each other. And then after that, we have a final discussion about any new developments that we'd like to see happen in PTFS. And we've usually got two representative PTFS there. Well, our meeting, usually Leslie, our account manager, and our Fiona. We drag her down from darkest Scotland. And then we basically decide where the next meeting is going to be. And we like to share the venue around. I'm down to be the next host of the meeting around about now, but of course we can't do that. I think the last thing we want to do is to have the North West Koha user be the cause of a major COVID outbreak across the Northwest.
We definitely don't want that.
So we've just got it on hold at the moment, but we will go on, and as soon as it's safe to do so, I'm the next host.
Great. And just sort of practically, what does the user group actually do? So what sort of things do you get done as a group?
Right. Well, we've often got common goals or things that we'd like Koha to do. Some things are more of a priority for some customers than others. But at the end of the day, developing Koha isn't cost-free. PTFS have to assign work time to actually do them. I'm not talking about massive changes here. Koha is basically a good library management system, but there are systems out there that can do other things that are slightly more flexible, but you pay for them and you do the nose for them. And is that cost worth it? Clearly, none of us here at this will think so, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't try and make Koha evolve and develop to match them. And that's what the user groups are about. We're there to give basically a steer from a user's perspective to PTFS on what would be operationally be very helpful for us. And by doing that, that's a win-win situation for everyone. We win as a customer because the system is developed in a way that makes it easy for our staff. But PTFS win because they've got a system that is more stable, and that means more business.
So is it all sort of positive, forward-looking, developmental stuff that you tackle at the user group?
Well, let's not be rosy-eyed about the group. There are times when we've got issues with Koha, and that will bring the group. Maybe, for example, the system isn't running as quickly as it should be. That's a common one. And that's where the group and the forum really comes into its own, because you've got two members of PTFS staff sat in front of you, hearing your problem, and they see for themselves how serious it is. And they can either suggest ways of solving it there and then, or escalate it up, which they always do. And that can even escalate as far as Jonathan, if it's severely serious. But then you have other members of the group out there that might have had similar experiences, and 9 times out of 10 they do. And they've usually come up with a solution of their own. Sally Healy from Cheshire is one of the group that she deals with over 30 libraries. So she's experienced most of the problems that we've all had. And she doesn't get out very much. So she's always working on solutions for these problems, and will be able to tell you an alternative approach to something. So it's that collaborative approach and that sharing of experience that's really useful to us when the problems come up. And I'm going to dare to bring money into the group now. I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to. Developing Koha costs money. It could be a couple of grand for a small development, could be tens of thousands of pounds. But if you want something to be changed in Koha, then the chances are someone else will want it to be changed as well. Now that's where you as a user group can look at and say, is it important enough for us? Usually you can get on board other people to go Dutch with you on paying for a development. Now, I'm very tight with the money in Sefton, and I'm very tight on how I spend it. It's coming from having spent 3 years as a student in Yorkshire. So that's quite an important part of the user group for me, being able to put forward a development. We'll usually have had a quote on it, and then getting someone else to help me pay for it. Now, sometimes it's the case that what you want is too niche and there's no takers, but often you find that someone else thinks it's a great idea as well, and will pop some money from their budgets to help the development happen. So the people that do fund that, we get the immediate benefits of that. And then for the wider community, at some stage, when it's gone through the hoo-ha of getting things released in Koha, that's when everyone else benefits.
So have you got a couple of examples maybe of things that the group has developed or funded then?
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about anything major here. Nothing like cash management, though members of the North West Usergroup were involved in the development of that. We're talking about tweaks and small changes that will make a big difference to the frontline staff. So a couple of examples that we've collectively funded are the renewals for items on hold. That's where someone brings an item back the day that it's due back, or someone phones up to say their book is due back on that day, but there's a hold on it. So in normal Koha, you can't actually renew it then, or if you do renew it, you've got to give a full amount of time. Whereas this development means you add a couple of days or 7 days, whatever leeway you want to give them to bring it back. Then there's the remote password reset. That's one from Cheshire. That's where they get a lot of people emailing and saying, "Want a password reset?" Well, they can now do it from home themselves. And then the final one that we jointly funded was placing multiple items on of the same item on hold. And that's really useful for the public libraries because we've got things like reading groups where we want one person to put a hold on 20 items of the same item.
Okay, understood.
So there's a couple of examples of some of the ones that we've done.
Great. So overall, we're just running a little bit short on time for the session. So overall, just perhaps sum up for us the key benefits of the user group.
For me, the big benefit is on the collaborative working with colleagues in the local area. That's where we get the real benefits because you have shared working, shared ideas, shared experience. And it's great to get ideas and bounce them off others that know what you're talking about. We get a direct feed to PFS when there's problems. We get to share costs, very important for me. So that means that our budgets look healthier. But we get to steer Koha in a direction that we want it to, really, and we help other people within the community develop it. So it started out as primarily an academic system. Well, for us in the public libraries, it's now more public orientated from our version, and that's where we all get benefits, really. So
right.
it's a win-win situation for us, and it's not a lot of work.
No. What do you think's in the future for the user group then?
Well, we've reached a point now in the Northwest where we've got a critical mass of PTFS customers. That's both academic and public. So we could go, and we're talking about this now. We could go in various directions. Firstly, we could look at seeing whether we wanted to break up the Northwest into subgroups, so we could have public libraries and academic libraries and special libraries. We don't always want the same things, and certain things aren't as important to the academic libraries as are to the public libraries. So that may be a way we go. We could also widen the group further, and already Newcastle libraries are attending our meetings. They're daring to come over the Pennines. It's a 4-hour journey for them, but they're doing it. But that does come with logistic problems. And then finally, the other option is that other user groups could be split up, could create themselves. So there could be other regional groups, for example. But to do that, you need someone to lead on it. We were quite lucky, really, in that Geraldine doesn't move very quickly. So when we all ducked, she didn't. So she got voted to be our chair, and now she leads the group. But you do need someone like that. So they're 3 options for where the groups could go.
Excellent. I mean, we're really supportive of the North West User Group as it exists, and however it chooses to kind of shape itself in the future. We find it really useful as a forum at PTFS Europe for all the reasons really that you've outlined to us today, Andrew. But we'd certainly be interested in supporting the establishment of other user groups, either, as you say, geographically, possibly in London. We've got a big group of Koha libraries in London now. That might be an ideal place to have a user group, or maybe around, as you suggest, around a sort of more sector specific. So maybe the health sector or something like that. So I guess the message is for those out there, if you're interested in setting up a user group along any of those lines, then have a chat to Andrew, ask any questions later today of Andrew that you have, and indeed Geraldine will be very willing to answer any questions about what's involved in running the user group and carrying things on. Great. Well, I think we're out of time. So, Andrew, thank you so much for your time today and for telling us all about what you do with the North West User Group. And I hope you have enjoyed sharing that with us.
Absolutely. What's not to like with?
Thanks very much.